Welcome to the video notes for lesson 12-7, Reasoning and Proof. This is the last video for topic 12. Begins on page 38 in your notes packet. Let's go ahead and get started. I can use deductive reasoning, there's an interesting word or phrase, to present a formal mathematical argument, also known as a proof. So, a proof is a formal mathematical argument. A proof is a logical deductive argument in which every statement of fact is supported by a reason. Reasons can be properties, definitions, assumptions, or given facts. A theorem is a conjecture that is proven. So we're not going to get too deep into this. This is kind of your introduction to the world of proofs. You'll see a little bit, very little bit maybe, in algebra. You'll see a lot of it in geometry. So let's go ahead and take a look at this example on page 38. So this is what's known as a two-column proof. Why? Well, because you have two columns. On the left is your statements. This is what you're saying is true. And on the right is your reasons. Because remember up top when I read the definitions, it said you need to give a reason. So the statement here says A is parallel to B and C is parallel to D. And the reason, it's given. Now if you look up here, they do tell you that those lines, A and B, are parallel to each other, and C and D are parallel to each other. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. What's the reason? Alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. So 1 and 4 are congruent. So I'm going to put one arc there. Angle 3 and angle 4 are congruent because corresponding angles of parallel lines are congruent. So 3 and 4 are the same measure. So since 3 and 4 are the same and 1 and 4 are the same, we can make a final statement and prove that angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent by what's known as the transitive property. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Now, I bet a lot of this is pretty confusing because we've never learned about the transitive property. What you see in parentheses here is what's known as the transitive property. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, we can basically cross out the B's and say, well then, A and C are the same. Alright? Okay. This will make a little more sense when we see some things that we know and understand, like over on the next page, 39. Use the following list of possible reasons for your proof. We should know all of these things. Distributive property, combine like terms or simplify, addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, and division property of equality. All of these are properties of equality. What they are, these are all statements or reasons of something you already know really well. When you solve an equation, what you do on one side of an equal sign, you do on the other. That is a property of equality. So, given 3 parentheses x plus 5 equals 45, prove x equals 10. Complete the proof by giving a reason that justifies each statement. So watch what we're going to do here. Oops, went too far. There we go. So, 3 parentheses x plus 5 equals 45. Why is this statement true? Because it is given. In other words, somebody tells you this is true. Given. Maybe your teacher, maybe your textbook. Now, what do we do from this step 1 to this step 2? To get rid of the parentheses, I bet many of you are saying, oh, that's called that's right, dun dun dun, distributive property. Okay, the next one. All right, what do I do from step 2 to get to step 3? Well, it looks like I got rid of the 15. How? By subtracting it. So look up at the possible reasons up here, and one should jump out at you, the subtraction property of equality. And instead of putting equality, you can actually put an equal sign. And then the last step, how do I get from this step to this step? I'm dividing both sides of the equation. What I do on one side, I do on the other, by 3. So what step does it look like? That's right, division property of equality. So on the left we have our statements, on the right we have our reasons. Alright? So I'm going to clear the screen, so if you need to copy, pause the video. Alright, so we're going to do this all again. Again, we'll be using the properties up above. Given x over 2 minus 12 equals 37, so they're giving this to us. Chances are we're going to have to write the word given. Prove x equals 98. Complete the proof by giving the reason that justifies the second statement. So statements. X over 2 minus 12 equals 37. Why is that true? It is given. You're going to learn, especially when you get to geometry, most of the time the first reason that you give is what information you are given. Next step, how do I get from 1 to 2? Well, it looks like they got rid of the minus 12, probably by adding it. That's right, that's the addition property of equality. Okay, next step, how do I get from 2 to 3? Well, it looks like they undo the x over 12, x over 2, by multiplying both sides by 2. So what is that? Of course, it is the multiplication property of equality. Okay. Your homework actually goes on to the next page, so I'm going to clear the screen, so pause it if you need to continue copying. We're going to do one more together, and then I'll expect you to try the rest on your own. This one at the bottom looks pretty interesting. Alright, so, given 5x minus 16 plus 8x equals 23, prove x equals 3. So they already did the given for you, so we got to do the next step. So how do we get from 1 to 2? Looks like they did something with the x's. That's right, they combined like terms or simplified terms. Then how do we get from step 2 to step 3? Well, it looks like they got rid of the minus 16 by adding it to both sides. So that is the addition property of equality. Pretty easy once you've done a couple of these. And then the last step, how do we get from here to here? To get rid of the 13, you divide. Oh, that's right, we have the division property of equality. Alright, so, after we finish this, your job is to finish the other two proofs on this page. There is no answer key at the bottom, so you're going to have to just try it and then check your answers when you get to class. If you had any trouble with this, go back and rewatch the video or come and see me for help. Good luck, and we'll see you in math.